Hi, how are you? I'm Daniel Marcos, CEO of the Growth Institute, and I've been an entrepreneur myself and a CEO for the last 20 years, and I've been a CEO coach for the last 10. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs grow companies, and I've seen there are two types of entrepreneurs. Ones that really scale their company, but really enjoy scaling their business, and they have a great life, and they could spend time and travel and the rest. And I have other entrepreneurs that they've scaled their business, but they're miserable. They're stuck to their business, they cannot take vacation, and they really have a hard time in their life because of their business. They become trapped to their business. So this channel is all about helping you scale your business faster and reduce the drama, be able to enjoy the ride of scaling. So I'm going to be posting a video every week. If you want to see the next video, please subscribe so we can notify you of the next videos, and look forward that you come back again and learn more on how to scale your company faster with less drama. And today I want to talk a little bit of my story. I've been doing videos and content online for the last 10 years, and a lot of people call me and say, hey, why are you saying this, or why do you refer to this? So I want to really do a video. It's probably going to be a longer video than the average about my story, why I became an entrepreneur and a CEO myself, and a little bit of my story of what I've learned, so you could understand more of why I do what I do. And remember, start with the why. It's really important you understand the why of why I do what I do, and how much or why it's important for me to give value back to help entrepreneurs grow faster with less drama. Everything we do is a reflection of our life, and people said you teach what you need the most, and man, I need it. I've been an entrepreneur for, as I said, for 20 years, and I know the drama I brought to my life, to my family, to my friends, just because I have a business and I've been running my business and growing it, and I'm a really determined entrepreneur. But that has some consequences in the rest of my life. So I'm building this because I need it. It's part of who I am, and it's part of also teaching my kids. And they understand why I spend sometimes late at night or working on the weekends doing these videos. So they really understand why. So okay, a little bit of who I am. I was born in Monterrey, Mexico, grew up in Mexico City. My father worked for government 30 years. And I remember very vividly that I used to go on vacation with my uncles and cousins and everything, and my parents. And my father had to come back to work. And I remember this, one day December 24th, in Christmas, we were spending Christmas in a ranch of an uncle. And my father was called back on the 24th. So day of Christmas, I had to come back to work to Mexico City. And I saw my uncles and I was like, they don't have to go back. And I began realizing that instead of them working for the government or having a job, they were entrepreneurs. They have this lifestyle that was very different. And that really stuck in my mind, that if you want to control more of your life, doing a company was a big thing. And now I realize that that's one of the issues. There's many other things of why you build a business. But that was what really stuck in my mind. I said, I want to be a business owner. I want to have my own business. So I could have the liberty, if I want to spend Christmas with my kids, be able to spend Christmas with my kids. So that's what really cemented that I want to be an entrepreneur. So I did a lot of startups when I was a kid, and I sold t-shirts and an aquarium and all this crazy stuff. But I went to college in Mexico. I studied industrial engineering, and while I was there, I worked for a brokerage house for 3 years as an intern, really understanding the markets and all that. And then I finished college, left to Hong Kong to work for 2 years, and I remember I read magazines a lot. I didn't read any book, and I'll tell a story about that later, but I was really a learner of magazines because I love to read Fortune and Forbes and all the business and everything. And I saw these kids at 20 years old making all this money online back in 1997, 1998 in the internet time. And I said, I need to go back and do that. And I was working in Hong Kong. I had a great job in the embassy, an amazing salary. And I resigned to my job, came back to Mexico to become an entrepreneur. So I began talking about how to do a brokerage house online. Like we have E-Trade in the US, a very known brokerage house. We built the first one for Mexico and Latin American market back 20 years ago. And I remember went back and began talking about the idea, and 2 or 3 friends kind of catch the idea and were excited. So one day I said, hey guys, whoever really wants to do this company, let's go to a cafe, let's talk, and let's agree on moving forward. So there were 4 of us in a table, and we agreed we were going to do the company, how much money each one was going to put. We were all going to resign to our jobs to go to work on this company. And then the friend said, hey, why don't we put positions, like who's going to do what? I was like, perfect. So this guy said, hey, I worked at Merrill Lynch for a couple of years, so I know a lot about finance. I'll take care of finance for the company and for the product. And he said, perfect, go and do it. And then the guy in front of me said, hey, when I went to college, I studied electrical engineering, so I know a little bit about technology, so I'll be the CTO. Great, so you'll be the CTO. And the guy to my right said, hey, my father has this company that organizes concerts, and I know a lot about how to organize a concert and marketing and sales, so I'll be in charge of sales and marketing. And perfect. So the three of them looked at me and said, and what are you going to do? And I was like, wow, like finance, technology, but I'll be the CEO. And everyone was like, why? And I was like, one needs to take a decision. One needs to have the face and be that face of the company. So the three of them looked at each other and said, okay, and that was it. That's how I became a CEO. And now, 20 years after, no one really prepares you to be a CEO. And more importantly, you never think, I want to be a CEO. You're thinking about what product, what service, what company you want to do. And then one day you wake up and you realize you're the CEO of an organization with employees and salaries and everything that has, and you are accountable for that. My biggest nightmares, it's been the payroll every 15 days in the last 20 years. There's some years that we're great in cash. There's some years we're a startup, we're having cash flow issues. And there's a struggle to pay payroll. So my worst night, it's every 2 weeks, one night before payroll, to be able to have the money that I need to be able to pay payroll. And I've never missed payroll in 20 years in my career. And that's one of the things that I'm the proudest, that I've never missed payroll to any of my employees in 20 years. And so that's what that's why I became an entrepreneur. That's how I became a CEO. As I said, I used to read magazines, but I never read any book or anything in business. I was a teenager that didn't like education very much, and I thought I knew everything. And when I built my business, I began having a lot of challenges, really growing my business, understanding what was my position to really be the CEO of a company. So I remember I was one day in my office, and one of my employees came to me and said, hey, Daniel, my husband is in this entrepreneurial group, and I think you'll be great. You will really enjoy it. Do you want to join? And I was like, yeah, I would love to get invited. So she calls her husband, the husband invites me, and I go to this meeting, and it was an EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. And that night significantly changed my life. I remember, first I was sitting in the room, that everyone was thinking like me. And I was like, there's people that have the same issues that I have. There's people that are going through the same growing pains. Like all my friends that I had from college and all that, they were all employees of companies. When I told them about all the problems that I'm having, they were looking at me like, you're crazy. I didn't have this network of entrepreneurs and CEOs around me that I could really understand that the challenges that I was having, they were normal. I was feeling super alone, thinking I was the only one knowing and having these kind of problems. So first for me was just being in this group with people with the same issues, same fears, same mistakes, same pains, and they didn't know what to do either. So we're helping each other on how to do it. So I immediately joined EO. I became a really exciting and really liking my experience in EO. And someone told me there was a program of EO that they used to do in MIT that they really help you to understand what was to really be an entrepreneur and a CEO. So I signed up, I applied, I got accepted, went to this program. It was a program by Inc. Magazine, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and MIT. And it helped you really to be a great CEO, to really understand what was your relationship and how to take control of your business. So I got accepted, and I remember I was super excited. They just selected 70 entrepreneurs from all over the world. I think we were like 2,000 applicants. So I was really nervous. I went to college in Mexico, and now I was going to go to this college in the US, MIT, for a week with one of the greatest entrepreneurs, or a group of the greatest entrepreneurs in the world. I was really afraid of going there. And when you get accepted, they send you a letter and said, hey, we're going to send you some books. You have to read the books before you come to class. And I remember that I was waiting for the books, and the books were never coming. And I got the books like 3 days before I take my plane to go to MIT, to Boston. And I get these 8 books. And there was a letter from Vern Harnish, who was leading it at that time, and said, hey, you have to read these 8 books before you come. And I probably read 1 or 2 business books in my life before. And then I had to read 8 books in 3 days. So I was really worried. I called my office and said, guys, I can't go to the office. I need to read all this. And I read for 3 days. And it was incredible how much I felt identified by the books. I realized that every problem or opportunity I have in business, someone else already had that problem or opportunity and figure out how to solve it, build a methodology or a process, and wrote a book about it. Today in Amazon, just to give you an idea, there's over 2 million different titles of business books available. So everything you need to know, it's out there. It's just painful to have to understand who's the right author, read it, and then go and implement on your own. It's very, very hard to really do all the process on your own and be able to implement flawlessly. I've been probably reading a book every week or every 2 weeks for the last 20 years in business. So most of these I've read, not all of them, but I know the book is there and I know what chapters they have or what information. Sometimes I get stuck in something and I just go right into the book. Today, most of my books, I do it in audio, in Audible, and I usually hear a book or so per week, plus some podcasts and other stuff. But I really realized that all the loneliness that I was feeling, apart from being with this group of entrepreneurs that was amazing in EO, it was really getting the story from someone, how to fix it. And here's for me the most important thing of a book. The book tells you something, the great books tell you something you already know intuitively, but when you read it on the book, it really gets solidified, you believe on it more, and when you implement it, your confidence value goes to the roof. As leaders, we're taking decisions and we're not necessarily sure about the decision, and when we're implementing, we're kind of yes and no, and then doing it and then not betting it all the way because we don't know if it's going to work. So that's what usually kills a program or a product or something you do. If you're very, very sure, if your confidence that it's going to work is really high, your attention, your focus, your determination is much higher. And that's what makes things successful. So for me, when I read a book, I have so much confidence in a process or a system I am following that just my focus, my determination, everything is so strong that usually I get more percentage of good decisions and things being successful than not, because of the confidence that I have behind reading a book or being coached by someone on how to do something. And that learning really, really changed my life. So long story short, my first business, I sold it to an Argentinian competitor. At the same time, he acquired or merged a Brazilian company. We went to JP Morgan after the three were together in New York. We raised a really big round of financing, $53 million. And we ended up growing the company to 1,200 employees in 2 years, and then selling it to Santander, the 13th biggest bank in the world. And it was just an amazing experience. I was 25 when I built it, 28 when we sold it and I left the company. And just the experience of being able to do a company with 1,200 employees, we sold for over $700 million of valuation. It was really an amazing experience. We became the second or third biggest internet company in Latin America back in 2000. So it was kind of a unicorn back then in the 2000s compared to the 220s that we have today. But that was my first experience. I thought I knew everything, but something important happened. Of course, I was getting all these people applying to work for us. We were a very public company. We were in the news all the time and magazines and everything. And I had all these kids from Harvard and MIT and Stanford that they were doing their MBAs in their internship or after their MBAs, and they were applying to work for us. And I was usually younger than them, and I went to engineering school, and I've read some books, but I've never been to any business school. So they were using these PowerPoint things and some jargons, and I felt that they knew more of business than I do. And I felt very uncomfortable that some of my employees knew more than I. And here's something I learned there. When you're an entrepreneur for the first time, you don't know what you don't know. And when they were showing me all these things, I realized how little I knew about business and growing. Even though I've read a lot of books, I still thought I needed more. So when I sold the company and I stayed for some time, then I left. I applied to Babson, supposedly the best business school for entrepreneurs in the world, 21 years in a row. Got accepted, went to Babson for a 1-year program. Amazing experience, loved it. I went there with my wife. We were recently married, no kids. And just being around international students in the US, in college, I just loved the experience. It was great. But now looking back, I had a great experience, but I used very little of my MBA to grow my company. It helped me with a lot of critical thinking and kind of a worldview, but it didn't give me a lot of tools that I need to how to grow my company. It never taught me how to really read a financial statement. You saw financial statements of really big companies. You never saw it of companies, startups like yours. So I never really understand how to do valuation of startups. how to raise money from investors. They didn't teach me how to hire great employees, how to keep them happy, how to do great meetings, how to do effective meetings, how to be a sales manager. I don't want to be a great sales agent. I want to be a great sales manager. I want to be able to have a lot of people selling my products. So they usually focus on telling you how to sell more. I don't want to sell more. I want to create an army of people selling my products and my services. So those kind of tactical things, like how to run a meeting, how to hire people and things like that, they never teach you in business school. So I had to relearn all that. I have to learn all that from these books and other courses and methodologies to be able to implement in my business. So today, of all the tools that I use to grow my business, probably 5% come from my MBA, 95% come from somewhere else. So I had to become a lifelong learner, and I've been learning how to really build companies and scale companies for the last 20 years. So I did that after the MBA. I went to Austin, Texas. I wanted to test myself as an entrepreneur in the US. In Mexico, who you know is very important, and who's your family and all that. So it was very easy for me coming from a nice family. My father has a great reputation in the country. My mom is amazing in core values and love and everything. So within them and the family and everything, there was a great support to help me do my business and grow my company. So I wanted to prove myself outside of my country. And I said, hey, I want to prove myself in the US, the biggest market in the world, the most competitive market. So after Babson, moved to Austin and built my first company in the US. And there were two trends that I was very aligned back then. One was the Hispanic market. That's when the US began realizing the Hispanic market had an important vote and size of market and everything. So I had to do something for Hispanics. And the second one was financial services. I used to do financial services online. I said I could learn how to do financial services to Hispanics. And I said, okay, what's the best product to start? Mortgages. So I opened a mortgage bank to help Hispanics buy their first home. We usually do a lot of undocumented Hispanic loans and or loans to undocumented Hispanics, and then to regular Hispanic people in the US. And it's interesting. We got a line of credit through a friend of mine in San Diego. We got a line of credit from Goldman Sachs of $500 million to give loans to undocumented people in the US. It was crazy when we heard that we got the line, but we used the line and we helped that to grow the business significantly. So that business I started 2004, 2008, you have to imagine, the financial crisis came, and we were the subprime of the subprime. We got destroyed from that business. I lost all my capital that I had built on my first company, and I was probably $1 million in debt, almost $1 million in debt by the time we closed the company. So really painful moment. I thought that I was super successful entrepreneur, and then I realized like I was completely wiped for a financial crisis. I had just had my daughter. My daughter, I think, was 1 year or 1 year and a half, and I said I need to go back to Mexico, get a job, and get to pay school for my kids and food and everything for my family. So I went back to Mexico, and I spent probably 6 months or 8 months having a really, really rough time. I was waking up in the middle of the night, sweating cold and crying sometimes, and it was really rough. I really attach my company's success to my personal success. So when my company failed, I thought I was a failure, and I had a completely direct relationship with that. And that's the hardest time I've been in my life, going through something like this. So when things were really, really bad and I was down, I was kind of depressed and really having a hard time, because business had gone down, I'd lost my assets, I've gained a lot of weight, my relationship with my wife was not very good. So everything in my life was in a really bad place and moment. And I remember getting phone calls and people reaching out to me, people that I care and they care for me. And that's when you really understand who are your friends. And I got several calls, including my parents sent me a letter, and it was a very, very important letter for me. That significantly started changing everything. I started doing exercise every morning. I had some conversations and things with my wife. But there were several calls from the business community. And there were two that really changed my life and my way of seeing things. One of them was the guy that was the head of Google Latin America. We met in high school. We went to high school together by chance. And we used to live very far away from our high school. So we shared rides every day together. So we become really, really good friends and play tennis and become really good friends in high school. And then we went ways apart in college. And then he ended up growing a technology company and become an icon of technology in Mexico. And then he became the CEO of Google. And we haven't seen each other in several years. And I get a call from this guy and said, hey, I need you to come to Google to be the head of the Mexican office. And I was like, I don't trust myself to be an entrepreneur. And like, I was having a really hard time with myself. And this guy was inviting me to be the head of the Mexican office, the country manager of Google. And I was like, why? And the guy said, like, you're an amazing entrepreneur. You've done these great companies. You've helped a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, you have to do this. And that started a conversation. At the end, that didn't happen. But just being invited to go through that process was amazing to go through it. And then another call was very important for me. And that was Vern Harnish. I met Vern through EO and this course in MIT. Vern is an amazing thought leader, has written really important books for the entrepreneurial community. And I saw him in some of his courses and met him a couple of times outside of the courses, but we were not really friends. And he heard through another friend that I had just gone under, my company had gone under. And he called me and said, how are you? I remember I began crying on the phone and begin having a really emotional moment with him. And I was really emotional that someone that I admire so much had called me to see how I was. And after probably 25 minutes, half hour rambling and complaining on the phone call, he said, like, are you ready? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, what's next? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm going to go back to Mexico, get a job. I'm done. I'm not an entrepreneur. And he said, no, what you went through is very important. You have to make sure it never happens again. So you have to become a business coach. And I said, there's no way I'm going to be a coach. And he said, Daniel, what you learned and the process that you went through and everything you've done in the past, you have to go back and be able to use that for good. And he told me the story about his life and how his father had gone bankrupt in his company and how that made his why. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm very touched that you called me, but I need to go back to Mexico and get a job. I need to put food on my kids' table. And he said, fine, go to Mexico, get a job, but on the weekend start coaching. And I said, fine, but I don't even have money to pay a plane ticket to go and train with you. And he said, don't worry, I'll send you a plane ticket. So I even went to train with him, all financed by Vern, went back to Mexico, began coaching on the weekends. Remember, I had a debt of almost $1 million then, so I had to really figure out how to pay that money back. So I went back, beginning to coach over the weekends. 6 months later, I was making more money on the weekends coaching than on my full-time job, resigned to my job and became a coach full-time. And that's been one of the best experiences ever, be able to help entrepreneurs all over the world, really be able to take their company to a next level, but most importantly, be able to enjoy their life. I remember this entrepreneur in Guatemala that I helped some years ago, that when we started working, the wife was part of the business, it was a family business. And we were in the middle of the process on getting engaged and all that. And she began crying. And so I looked at her and said, look, what's going on? And she said, well, we haven't been able to take vacation in X amount of years. And the pressure and all that, I really want to be able to have a family life with my husband. But because of the business, we can't do it. And X amount of time later, probably a year or so, I was giving a presentation in Guatemala. And after I finished, she comes on stage and hugs me and said, hey, changed my life. Like, we've been able to go on vacation, now we're enjoying, we just bought a new house. We significantly turned the business around in just 1 year. And that's what matters. Those are the stories that really, really pays you for being a coach, in really understanding the impact you were able to do in the world. So became a business coach. It's been an amazing experience. But after 4 or 5 years of being a business coach, I was ready to go back. I really wanted to go back. So I called Vern and said, Vern, I'm ready to go back. I'm going to stop being a coach. And he was like, you're crazy. You're doing great. In that moment, I was making a lot of money doing coaching and really having a really big impact. And he said, how can you leave that? And I was like, I really would like to do it and continue doing it. But there's 2 problems. One, I'm on the plane all the time. I remember my last year of coaching. I slept away from home 250 nights that year. So I was on the plane all day. And the second, I really wanted to be an entrepreneur again and really build a company, grow it, and all the things that come up with that. So I said, I'm going to love education. I'm going to get that online and be able to take it to more people around the world. And he said, okay, great. let's do it together. And I was like, hey, Vern, I don't want to be your employee. I really appreciate everything we've done, but I really want to be an entrepreneur, build another company and be a stockholder and everything. And he said, don't worry, I'll fund you. Let's run with this together. So we agreed, we partnered, and we built Growth Institute 6 years ago. And up to today, we've helped 40,000 executives of 10,000 different companies in 64 countries with tools to be able to scale faster with less drama. It's been an amazing experience. Love what I do. And I sometimes have bad days and I stay in the computer until 1 o'clock in the morning or something, or recording videos like this on a Saturday when my wife takes my kids to the park. And when I complain, my wife said, but you like it? I love it. I really enjoy doing what I do. And here's an important caveat. Originally from Mexico, I lived in the US for 15 years. Today I live in Canada. We've been living here for almost a year. We have our main operation is Austin, Texas, a US corporation, everything. We have a big chunk of our operation in Mexico. All customer support, finance, technology, video editing, everything is done in Mexico. And I live in Canada. And I'm able to run my company, grow fast. We were in the Inc. 5000 last year. We're in the Inc. 5000 again this year. And I work from home. I travel still a lot, not as much as before, but still travel a lot. But I'm able to really enjoy my life and have a life outside of my business. So that's what's really important. I really realize there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of methodologies that if I learn and really implement with all this confidence and trust, then the success or how much value they're going to give you gets significantly better, improves much more. And I'm able to grow my company significantly, scale my business, and really enjoy my life. And really enjoy being an entrepreneur and not being a miserable entrepreneur that you're tied to your business without having to be able to go on vacation and the rest. So yes, growing a business is hard. I still have a lot of tough moments, a lot of sleepless nights. Sometimes we had issues paying payroll, but hey, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. It's a completely different now than 10, 20 years ago, just because of everything we've learned, every system, every procedure, every team we've built. We built an amazing team at Growth Institute that is helping us really is taking to the next level. And we have something interesting at the company. We said, hey, it doesn't matter what I say or what you think. If you're making the client happy, I'm going to be happy with you. So wherever you are, if I'm not close to you, don't worry. If you're going to do something that is going to make the client happy, do it. Don't question. Because we know if we make the client happy, if we help the client, help all of you guys be able to grow your companies faster with less drama, then that's it. We've done our job. And we'll expect some of that's going to come back to us. We really understand that the more value you give to the world, the more value the world's going to come back to you. So that's the way we operate. And it's amazing the liberty I have in my life because of that. So I really have learned a lot of how to scale a business and really enjoy the life. Being around a lot of really great entrepreneurs around the world, learning with all of them. I had a mastermind last year. I've been in Forum for 20 years, members of EO and YPO, and it's been a really, really great experience. So I encourage you to decide to scale. And by the way, when I say decide, my clients tell me, Daniel, remember the day we decide to scale. If you really want to take your company to the next level, you really want to scale your company, you have to decide. You have to take decisions differently. So you have to decide. So I encourage you and I challenge you to decide scaling your business, but don't just scale it and have a miserable life or a hard life. Scale your business and enjoy the ride. Thank you very much. I'm Daniel Marco, CEO of the Growth Institute. And if you really want to learn more, there's a lot of videos below. But most importantly, let's start a conversation. Tell me what you think, tell me what you learned, and let's start a conversation, help each other as entrepreneurs, as CEOs, C-level executives, how to really scale companies and have less drama. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.